little bit here talking about this. Who are you?
I'm an artist.
What do you do? You're an artist. You're a musician. But what other aspects about you? Who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm a lifelong musician. I'm a lifelong artist. I began playing drums at 2. I got my first drum kit. I've got the drum kit I have played now for most of my professional career. I got it 12 years old, and it's old trusty, and I've played all over the world with it. And the music side of it has always been my primary focus, as it were. But my economic side in the mid 90s fell into I had a pair of vampire teeth made for myself. I'd had long teeth as a child, unnaturally long teeth. And when I was a young teenager, my dentist and my parents decided I needed braces because I had a profound overbite as well. I have Freddie Mercury mouth. And everybody said, oh, okay, you got to have braces. So in the course of doing the braces, one thing dentists will do, it's called contouring. They will shave down certain offending parts of teeth in the mouth that might, inhibit the process of the braces working and, bring everything sort of into line. And they got through, he took off one of my top fangs before I realized what was going on. And then they took the other one. I had a block of wood in my mouth at that point and 3 nurses holding me down. So, they got the other fang and I started biting them, and they didn't get my bottom ones. I still have my bottom ones, but they have worn down over the course of time now. But they stuck me in this terrible apparatus to widen my mouth. Anybody who's ever had one of those things is like a medieval torture device. You have a little key, you put in it, and you spacer, or you widen your mouth up. And I ended up yanking that out of my mouth, and miraculously my teeth all popped into place. Boom, like they were always supposed to have been there. So a couple years later, Interview with the Vampire came out, and I'd been a big fan of the books, especially The Vampire Lestat. I got into that book because he was a rock star.
Right.
And I'd always had this, I wasn't so much into vampires. I was into werewolves. I loved werewolves. Okay. And the natural, I've always been really keyed into cultures that have, say, animal familiars and the spirituality of a connection with animals versus vampires, which I'm going to get staked for this, but, I've always looked at it sort of like leeches,
What?
Whereas, a noble... It's a joke. It's a joke.
Listen, buddy.
It's a joke. But
my donors are consensual. Thank you.
I'm kidding.
I know. I had to throw that in.
I'm so not kidding.
You're
but
fine.
I was really, I was always into the animal side of it, but the Vampire Chronicles really intrigued me. I loved that book series, and I found myself on stage in Abbotsford, British Columbia, doing a weekly show. We were the weekly house band, and funny enough, I had just done all the backing tracks to do Cry Little Sister, and we're doing Cry Little Sister, and I'm usually the drummer, but I had a drum machine running for it, so I came out front to sing it. And as I'm on the lip of the stage, I'm right up there at the front, I look down, and there's a kid in the audience looking back at me, and he's got these eyes, and he's snarling at me with these teeth, and I'm thinking, oh my God, wow, there's a vampire, And so after the set, I went and I found him and struck up conversation and asked him about his teeth. And he said, oh, these are my teeth, and they grew in, and we're talking, and one of them falls out. And I'm like, no, okay, this is...
These came in when I ascended.
Right. So where'd you get these? So he told me about a gentleman who was from Seattle who would travel up to Vancouver on a regular basis and make these teeth out of this alternative clothing shop. So I called the shop, made an appointment, went down and had fangs made. And I could tell you, for every client that I do, and when they look in the mirror and they have this look, and you could tell, I've had people cry when they look in the mirror. They're so happy. They feel like they've made a connection with themselves, whatever that connection may be. But I can relate to that because I looked in the mirror and I was back. I felt like I had my mouth back, and it was glorious. And it lasted for about 6 months till I broke one. I had moved back to the East Coast from Vancouver to be available, help take care of my mother who was ailing from cancer, and I moved home. My father traveled for work. My brother was off to college, so somebody should be there. And one of the teeth broke, and I blame her for that, which is kind of funny. I'd left them on my desk and gone out to do some errands one day. Left them without a case, which is why I tell everybody always keep them in a case. And I came home and there was an Encyclopedia Britannica sitting in the middle of my desk where my teeth had been. And I thought, no. And I lifted up the Encyclopedia Britannica and there were the fangs in the wrong number of pieces. And I had nowhere to go to get them fixed. I didn't know anybody in the area who did this kind of work. The internet existed, but it was still relatively pre-internet. It was like the sort of still the natal internet. CompuServe had grown up a little bit. AOL was just hitting.
Okay.
But I didn't know, anything about any of that. I just got the materials from my dentist and started practicing how to fix these. Completely unsuccessfully, but I had enough material to start experimenting on myself. And I even was able to track down the gentleman who made mine. His name is Sarvek. He still works up in Seattle. And if you're in the area, look him up. Sarvek, Tsarvek. And he's legend. He's legend. And he mentored me. He gave me a whole lot of information. He basically said, never come across the Mississippi. Stay in your half of the country. I said, okay. Which got blown away 10 years later. But he was very helpful. He and I discussed all kinds of things. I started working on things. I came up with things, shared with him. He shared things with me. And by that Halloween, I was up and running. And I had clients coming out the wazoo. And it was never something that I intended to do. I just fell into it. And 25 years later, I've got this established sort of, I've just been around and I've had lots of people out there who've had them, done lots of stuff with them. And it has certainly eclipsed the music to the degree of economics, certainly more recently, because I started touring in 2005. I got this idea because I had a booming mail order business. But in 2005, it was like, you know what? I could do more. But nobody knows about it. So I started touring. I booked myself out at a bunch of conventions around the world and went around and made these teeth. And I did okay. It didn't quite pay for itself. I came back in the red, but I had sown a whole lot of seeds out there. The trouble was I didn't really have the money to go back and do the endeavor over again. I kind of bit off more than I could chew in the beginning. So I created a whole bunch of interest, then never filled it. And two things happened as a result. First off, a whole lot of fang makers started popping up because people became aware of the product, but there was nobody doing it, so they decided they would do it. And I killed my mail order business.
These fangs, by the way, I just want to clarify something. So these are artificial fangs that you just put in your mouth? Or are you actually like molding?
Yeah, they're like clip-ons, basically.
Clip-ons?
So what they are made of the same material. It's a dental composite, but it's plasticized. It's methyl methacrylate. It's the same material that they use to make temporary crowns out of, dentures, retainers, things like that. So it's not a porcelain, which can damage your teeth as far as the rigidity of it can really wear on your enamel. And because these are not shaped like natural teeth, in fact, part of the principle is they have to cup over your entire tooth. So when you have an opposing top and bottom bite, what's called occlusion, where your bottom teeth would naturally sort of tuck in underneath your top teeth, they, in many cases, most cases, I would say, people's teeth are right against each other. You're adding a little bit of space with the fang itself, but they are custom fitted. They're custom fitted much in the way that a temporary crown would be, except no preparation is done to your natural tooth. I'm extremely conscious of natural mouth health, natural tooth health, and I don't think anybody should damage themselves for an aesthetic. I think you're kind of nuts if you start carving your body up just to have a cool look or something.
Yeah,
and
this is very fascinating because it's like it borders on like I don't know. To me, it sounds like it borders on like dental work, but I mean, you don't have any.
It does. but it's in, it is sort of, kind of, and there are people who are in the body modification world who absolutely denounce what I do because it's not permanent. But it is a form of body modification, and it's more of an aesthetic, though. I mean, you can take on and put on and take off contacts, or it's like clothing. It is an accessory. But the beauty of this too, in it not being, first off, with the material. I've had people who were out moshing and they get popped in the mouth and they're wearing the fangs. Well, the fangs will break off. They won't hurt your natural teeth. So there's safety in that sense. They are also, because they are removable, you can easily upgrade or add other ones to them. So you're not set in some, you're not cast in stone with a particular look. There's a modular aspect to them, which is very attractive to other people. And then again, I refuse to do anything to anybody that's going to hurt them. In fact, I have people who, one of my requirements, there are people out there who do mail order, and they will even send molding kits to people so they can mold their own house, which in itself has a I'm questionable about that, because you're on one hand you're dealing with people needing to make an extremely precise mold of something, because the mouth is a world of minutia. If you don't get every little aspect correct, these things won't fit. And getting somebody who's never made a mold of their mouth before to make a mold of their mouth is questionable. And then you have the aspect of, if they don't know what they're doing with the material, who knows how they're going to injure themselves or so forth. So then there's the question of color. I'm extremely conscious of tooth colors. So I don't know how people are able to actually, I don't understand. I'm sure people think they can, but unless you are there with the proper light, with the proper sort of system to gauge the color, you have the propensity for being off is enough that I'm, for what I consider my level of work, I insist that you go to a dentist, have a proper dental casting made, and the dentist gives you a proper shade prescription. So I know exactly the color of your teeth, and I know that these teeth are your mouth right here.
That is a lot of work right there. So no
well,
wonder this,
but
pays.
how bad do you?
Yeah.
How bad do you want them? But also my sort of side thing is, making you go to the dentist means that you have to go and have somebody professional look in your mouth and tell you if there's anything going on. Because mouth health is one of the most important healths, because first off, you get an infection in your mouth, you're inches away from your brain. Yeah. Also, if you can't eat properly, you cannot sustain the rest of your body. So I think people need to take better care of their mouths than they do. And in general, in this country, people have really pretty good mouths, I have to say, overall. People could floss more. Everybody, floss after every meal. Trust me, if your gums bleed, they'll stop within a week.
I don't need to be lectured about my teeth, ma'am. I smoke cigars, drink beer.
Yeah. We'll fucking cancel you.
Come on. No.
Good luck.
You get, first off, I'm not surprised that this is actually taking, I guess it sounds like this business kind of helps pay your way. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that if it does, because it seems like it's pretty expensive.
Well, it does. It does. Well, I mean, when you consider everything that goes into it, they're actually reasonably priced. I have a lot of people who tell me that I should be charging more.